Hello and welcome to Doha's famous Corniche, and once again at these IAAF World Athletics Championships, the illuminated coastal road in Qatar's capital plays host to the world's best race walkers. Tonight, it's the turn of the men to tackle the 20-kilometer walk under those lights. Welcome from Tony Husband, alongside me once again, someone for whom endurance racing was a way of life, and what a great success she made of it. Former Olympian and Commonwealth Games medalist in the marathon, Mara Yamanishi.
Hi Tony, we are indeed into the final straight for the race walking events at these World Championships, and tonight's race could be the best yet.
Yeah, wide open as we look ahead to this one. More to come from Mara as we broadcast from our position right by the finish line at the Corniche. If you're watching, by the way, the race walking sport for the first time, well, we'll have a full explainer for you during our coverage of a contest which really does have multiple medal contenders, and it's minutes from getting underway here. Some of the sights of Doha, and from 11:30 local time, the last of the race walks goes off. It's the men's 20-kilometer walk. Looking down onto the course, and we'll see a lot more about the route shortly. A large entry showing a true global presence here in Doha. This has been a course like no other. That's an absolutely historic IAAF World Championships. Remember, this is the first time they've been staged in the Middle East. A last chance for them to warm up in front of coaches, support staff, and an opportunity as well to take on some more fluids before they hit the road, literally, for what could be 90 minutes of arduous walking. Let's have a look then at the course map. We are perched on a section of the 7-kilometer strip known as the Corniche. It's right on the waterfront, as you can see here in Doha. Now, the 1-kilometer course will take the walkers anti-clockwise towards the port area of the city before looping back. Now, at this stage, the bright lights of the skyscrapers will be in the distance. The second loop brings them up past the penalty zone, unless, of course, they have to stop on the way. All in all, as we spin round and look down on that route, there are 20 laps of the 1-kilometer course. And at the end of it all, of course, we will crown a world champion here in Qatar. Well, the weather has been a big talking point, of course, here in Doha. High heat and humidity. It is muggy this evening. It's a challenge for all competitors. And tonight, 32 Celsius on a clear night with a moderate breeze that you can feel when you walk around the course. So, Mara, how much will the conditions have affected the preparations of these walkers as they get ready? And already you can see they are getting themselves pretty doused in water.
Well, training in a hot and humid environment will have been essential for these athletes to acclimatise, whether that's in a hot country or in a heat chamber or even wearing a lot of clothing while training. But let's not forget the other challenge these athletes face, racing in the middle of the night, and they will have had to adjust their body clocks to prepare for that.
That's right indeed. Well, the event records, the best marks, probably not going to be broken in these kind of conditions, but let's have a look at just what they are. The world record is held by the winner of the men's 50k walk last weekend, Suzuki. He is a very, very strong contender, but of course he's only raced in the 50k here. The world leader, also Japanese, among the starters though tonight, and he's sure to be up there. Well, a look down onto the course, and we have a large field. 9 judges will be watching on as these walkers certainly aim for glory at the end of a long season for them. There is just one more major meeting to come for these athletes in China in a fortnight's time. Now, speaking of the Chinese, they are having a very good event.
Absolutely, Tony. So 5 out of 6 medals in the women's events and 1 medal apiece for Japan, Portugal, Canada and Italy. So if China win a medal tonight, they'll have won half or more of the total race walking medals on offer here in Doha.
They swept the board, of course, the women's 20k, and yep, the Chinese flags are ready to fly again here. What will become of their group of athletes? They certainly have some contenders who are gathering on the start line. We're not too far away now from the start under the lights of the Corniche, but let's take a look at the full start list for this event, and it certainly is a big one. As we look down there at the Spiral Mosque here in Doha, more than 50 athletes actually appear on the start list. They are from all corners of the globe, no doubting the strength of the competition across nations and areas. Here, just one of the 27 medalists is actually on the start list, though. The Central Americans, well represented, of course, and the South Americans, along with the traditionally strong Spanish, and also representing the European interest, Tom Bosworth of Great Britain, who was disqualified at the 2017 walk in his home country. The Germans are billed to be strong here and fast, and look out in particular for Christopher Linker. There in the centre, though, ranked 1 and 2 in the world, Castaneda and Yamanishi, and a non-starter, Giorgio Rubino. He joins Evan Dunphy in not starting this race. Dunphy, of course, a medalist in the 50k from Canada. Perseus Karlström of Sweden, a strong contender in the next hour or so. And the list is completed by Venezuela's Richard Vargas, and a trio of Ukrainians on there as well. So that's all of them. And watching on, and in fact starting proceedings tonight, the IAAF president Sebastian Coe's made his way from a very busy stadium down here to the Corniche to get them underway. Right, let's take a look in more detail at some of the walkers we're going to be focusing on, and some of the big contenders as well over the next 90 minutes or so. Now, on the right-hand side there, that's Brian Pintado of Ecuador. He won this year's Pan American Championship. The 24-year-old is yet to break the 1 hour 20 mark. Can he do that in these conditions tonight? Well, that could be a challenge for him. Next to him in the Australian best, Dane Bird-Smith. Danish to his mates. He's from Queensland, Australia. He won bronze at the Rio Olympic Games 2 years ago. And a broad smile from him as well. Now, Wang of China, a string of major wins behind him in the hugely competitive environment of Chinese race walking. It has been a brilliant championships for them already. Is that man about to make it better? Also in a red vest, Alvaro Martin of the traditionally strong Spanish team. He won the European title last year, and he certainly knows how to time his race to perfection. In the yellow, Perseus Karlström. He's noted for his speed. He leads the world over shorter distances of 5 and 10k, and he's Sweden's national record holder. And we will talk a lot about the Japanese. Toshikazu Yamanishi. He's a former world youth champion. He's the 4th fastest walker ever. He's 23 years of age, and he should be among the front walkers. So the build-up is over. The officials get them to the start line. And the IAAF president, Sebastian Coe, is going to get them underway. And look into the eyes of Yamanishi. 1:17.15 for him in his home country earlier this year. Makes him the world leader. There's Wang of China, hoping to outpace him. They're underway, and they had to make their way through one of the officials on the left of the screen there. So the predicted race win time, as they go into this first 100 meters or so, is looking at about the hour 24 to hour 25 mark. So that just allows for the slightly slower pacings that we've seen. The advice, of course, has been that they will have to just be a little bit more sensible in the muggy, humid conditions, and we're unlikely to see quite as fast a pace as we might see in some more northern hemisphere areas. But they do say this is going to be also very similar to the kind of conditions they'll face at the Olympic Games next year as well. So as we're underway, we'll tell you lots more about the rules and regulations of race walking if you're new to the sport. But the essential thing, I think, just to tell you straight from the start, as we watch the technique of the walkers as they head down towards the port area, and the Amiri Diwan, the government offices as well, once known as Al Bidder Fort here, and they do that loop for the first time. Race walking's definition, a progression of steps so taken that the walker makes contact with the ground so that no visible, and that's to the eye, loss of contact occurs. The advancing leg must be straightened from the moment of first contact with the ground until the vertical upright position. There's a card system in place, there's a yellow paddle system in place, and we'll give you the difference and the definitions of those marks as well. And Mara, there are lots of things for them to factor in these early stages, aren't there?
Absolutely, Tony. So the hot weather has been a theme of these World Championships. The athletes and teams were all sent a statement earlier today reassuring them of the support that's in place on the course, and also just reminding them that they might want to adjust their pace given these hot conditions. Of all of the outdoor races so far, so the men's and women's 50k walk, the women's 20k walk and the women's marathon, have all been won in the slowest time ever at a World Championship. So you can see the effect that the heat and humidity is having on times. Having said that, however, the Chinese women who swept the medal podium in the 20k, when I interviewed them at the end of the race, they said, oh, the conditions were fine, we're used to much worse back home. So not too bad for them. And an indication of the difference, the women's 20k was won in 1:32.53. The previous slowest World Championship winning time was 1:30.50 back in 1999 in Seville. So not a huge difference, but I think we're certainly not going to be seeing any records here today.
No, they're all under the watchful eye, of course, of the judges. There are 9 of them spread out around this course, and let's take a look at some of them. And, well, Anne Froberg on the left-hand side there, a long-serving judge. She will be going to the 2020 Olympics, where she will be one of the judges for the very first time. Also on that screen there, Wan Tuk Fung, Yang Zhongmin, and Jose Julio Barbosa Diaz. And completing that group, Kirsten Crocker, Marianne Daniel. Noel Carmody is the recorder, so he will take down the infringements. And Steve Taylor, the race-walking judge there, well, he's the judge on whose shoulders Tom Bosworth cried when he was disqualified from the 2017 race walk. Now, the rules that we're looking at. So you're going to see a yellow paddle waved by judges. Now that carries no sanction, that's the key thing. You can be yellow paddled all the way around the course. It's an advisory caution. It's an indication from a judge that a technique of a walker is potentially in breach of the rules. Now, if a judge feels that a clear breach is taking place, they will be issued with a red card. The red cards are recorded and eventually sent back to this man on the left, Daniel Michaud, who is the race-walking chief judge, and also Dolores Rojas, who's got a reputation for being pretty stern when it comes to applying the rules as well. And for a first time at these World Championships, they have cameras on, and you can see Daniel there has that camera just below his left ear, and he's watching carefully. And the coned area to the right of the screen, that is the penalty zone. Now, if you receive 3 red cards, you will go into the penalty zone. You'll spend 2 minutes in there. And of course, that is a big blow if you lose 2 minutes in a relatively short walk. But we do expect, it's quite often not uncommon, for the judges to get a little stricter as competition progresses through at major championships. So we will wait and see if there are any infringements, any disqualifications. There's sure to be at some stage in the next 80 to 90 minutes or so. The drink stations there, so important, and you'll hear the clatter as the bottles hit the ground as well at times, Mara, because of course refueling absolutely essential for them all out there.
Absolutely, in these conditions, dehydration is a real concern for these athletes, and also cooling themselves down. So you saw there, they weren't just taking drinks to consume, but water to put on their heads, bags of ice being given out. I think some of the athletes have ice tucked under the hats that they're wearing. The German athletes in last weekend's walks all had taller hats, and they were putting ice into the top of the hat, so we might see a bit of that happening, especially with the taller figure of Linker. 6'3" he is tall. So, and the athletes might be drinking water, but more likely would be sports drinks. Some of them might be going for even cola drinks, something else with caffeine in, possibly gels. but certainly you can see there Dane Bird Smith carrying his bottle. We saw one of the Japanese athletes earlier with what looked like a white collar around his neck. I think that was a cooling ice collar, if you like. So all these athletes will have thought very carefully about how best to keep themselves cool in these tough conditions.
Yeah, Dane Bird Smith, as well as his Olympic bronze, celebrated Commonwealth title last year on the Gold Coast, wearing the Australian vest, one of the proudest moments of the life of a walker who is the son of Olympian Dave Smith. So Dane, who they just call him Danish, his nickname. But his father, Dave, was an Olympian, and in fact his father still betters him over the 20k mark by 6 seconds, so that's sure to provide a little bit of competition in the family. But he is the early leader at this stage, and of course this is very early in a 20k route as the Spanish cheer on their contingent in there as well. There's some good support down here on the corniche tonight, as Callum Wilkinson of Great Britain is up there as well. There's the scene with the crowd. You can also see the flag left-hand side of the screen fluttering. There is more breeze tonight, but it is still a pretty humid evening.
Dane Bird Smith's win at the Commonwealth Games last year was the 5th consecutive Australian win in that event. So Australia, one of the real powerhouses of race walking. We talked earlier, Tony, about race walking being a really global event. And if you look at the teams, the countries which have sent full teams, so 3 athletes in this race, you can see, around the world where race walking is really, really strong. So those countries with full teams are China, Ecuador, Spain, Germany, Guatemala, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Ukraine. And interestingly, we have 2 African athletes, Kenyan Samuel Gatimba, he's the national record holder from Kenya, 1:19.04. And also from South Africa, Wayne Snyman, also featuring from Africa in this race.
No sign of any red cards as yet for any of the competing athletes, as Bird Smith has taken out this early lead. We did see Yamanishi, possibly the favourite, you would have to say, coming into this, just on the left-hand side. He's now just dropped back into that second row there, and he's next to his fellow countryman Zelin Chai of China, who was actually second at the 2016 World Team Championships and then followed that up with a silver medal at the Rio Olympics as well. So he's just behind the tall figure of Dane Bird Smith. And we've got the Colombian as well, Castaneda, just on the left-hand side of the picture, who's made a good start as well as they come down in front of that grandstand here on the corniche. I mentioned the rules and the card system that's in place. The 3 red cards, you go in the penalty zone for 2 minutes. If you come out and get a 4th, you're disqualified. You're out of the race as they go through 2 kilometers in 9 minutes and 2 seconds. So they're averaging at the moment 4 minutes and 31 seconds per kilometer. So it is a little slower than normal. And in fact, you've got a pretty good idea of the kind of pace they're working to from that, Mara.
Yes, Tony, so 4:30 per kilometre brings you home in 1:30. So they're outside 1:30 goal finishing time at present. Bearing in mind the women's race a week ago was won in 1:32.53, and the men's world record is a 1 kilometre split time of about 3:50. So a very slow pace in the early stages of this men's 20k.
Yes, it is conservative, isn't it? That's clearly
very.
They're taking into great note, really, and great account the advice given on just pacing things in warm conditions. And you can see the bottles flying around the road. The road will also get a bit wetter as well. That'll be a feature of the next hour and 20 minutes or so. You'll see as they take on liquid and they're pouring. Oh, there's nearly a fall there. Do you see that as they went around the bend there? Just a couple of legs actually catching each other, and there a paddle from the judge there at the back. So a warning to the back marker there. That's just a paddle. Remember, that's not any kind of penalty, as the Colombian has now gone out into the lead. That's Castaneda. And just to conclude, the kind of jeopardy levels you can get with a race walk as well, because you might think, well, what happens if you're set up in the last 100 meters, you're neck and neck, you might only have 1 red card, so you think, well, I'm past the penalty zone, they can't put me in there, why don't I push it and possibly just break technique? Well, you can't do that because Daniel Michaud has the ability to outright disqualify anybody if he feels that they have broken their technique in order to effectively achieve a winning mark at the end, and that would happen after the end of the race. And if indeed you receive a second or a third red card after you've passed the penalty zone for the last time, then you would get a 2-minute penalty added to your finish time. As out comes another paddle there in the field.
That's right, Tony. We saw there are two types of yellow paddles. So one for the rule, the part of the rule concerning loss of contact with the ground, and the other for bent knee. And each athlete can, in theory, receive both paddles from the judges. So in theory, they could receive 16 in all, but that's very rare. And often, yellow paddles will be given out before red cards are issued. So the yellow paddles, they don't have any link to disqualification, but it's really an advisory caution to the athletes.
Well, as much as they've got to keep themselves hydrated, keep the water in there, they've also got to watch their feet, and when it's very bunched, you can get these situations where you can get tangled. So watch carefully, just going through now. There we are, almost on the cone with the flowers there. You can see two athletes just clashing and one staying on his feet, and that was as they went round the loop. And of course, the loop is an area where both your technique can be monitored very closely, but also when you're going around the bend like that, it's tight and it's compact, and there's a lot of walkers in that group. They are more spread out though now, Mara, and Castaneda still making a push.
Yes, that's right. Castaneda from Colombia. His compatriot is the defending champion, Ada Arevalo. He unfortunately is not here today because he has a broken collarbone sustained in a cycling accident a couple of weeks ago. So no defending champion, so we will have a new world champion. Just coming back to that incident a moment ago, we were talking to one of the judges about what happens when an athlete trips or steps on a bottle or something and clearly loses contact with the ground. Is that an immediate red card? And we were told that actually the judges can use discretion. You know, they give an athlete the benefit of the doubt. If it's clearly an accident and they're not attempting to cheat in any way, then the athlete usually would not receive a red card.
Now there are two logos as we go around the 17 lap to go mark and 3 kilometers in 13:29. Two logos on the paddles. Remember, the paddles are not any kind of penalty. One is a little kind of squiggle effectively. We just saw that a few moments ago. That is for loss of contact. And the other is more of a little kind of sideways triangle, and that's a bent knee. So we can actually give you an example of a paddle coming out. So watch this judge here. And there we go. Out he goes with the paddle to Bonfin, who actually is a medalist from last time out. He was the 2017 bronze medalist, and he's the only medalist on the start line.
He was second in the Pan Am Games earlier this year and fourth in the Rio Olympic Games. So one of the favourites there at the back and getting a yellow paddle very early on in this race. He set a national record at the La Coruña race earlier this year. So one of the top walkers in this race.
Castaneda at the front then in this 20-kilometre race walk. Down on the corniche, the bottles hurled to one side. Bird Smith still in second. We'll talk a little bit more about Karlstrom at some point, but let's have a look at John Alexander Castaneda of Colombia. He's 27 years of age now. He's the 2019 South American champion over 10,000 metres. He's also got a string of records behind him, and he's progressed well from world junior ranks and through to the seniors now as well, where he's very much at home. He did get a warning, remember, for his technique a little earlier. We saw the paddle come out. Still though, Mara, no red cards, but Castaneda has at the front, and it also shows when you're a bit isolated from the field, you know, your technique's really going to be under the microscope.
Absolutely. I mean, the athletes in the middle of that pack there, you'd think the judges would have more difficulty spotting any infringements of the rules, but when you're out on your own, it's really clear for the judges to see. And the split we had through at 3 kilometres was 4:27, so some 5 seconds or so faster than the very slow first kilometre.
They're starting to spread out as well, aren't they? There is now a quite defined gap between the front with this group, Stano on the right, Bird Smith on the left. And remember, Castaneda who, as we see the Spanish flags flying there, who has had a warning, and this is what happened to him just a few moments ago, earlier in this race. Castaneda in that stage where he's leading, remember he hasn't got a cap on there, and a really good example there of the foul and the infringement. That paddle on that side shows the loss of contact, so flip it round, he would have been given a bent knee warning, so that's what the warning would have been for him. Those drink stations, they've actually moved them, Mara, haven't they, this time, to further down the course. There's the sponges as well, and you can see they're not all necessarily even taking one. Some of them are grabbing two, and look, bottles of water under the armpits, everything.
That's right, there are two different drink stations here. One is the athlete's own special refreshment station where they can put anything they want, and their team officials can hand out the refreshments to them. We've seen all manner of things coming from there: ice, bags full of all sorts of things, stockings full of ice, drinks, all manner of things. And then the other table is the general table, which gives out water and sponges.
So in these early stages, it's Bird Smith who's just regained that slight advantage at the front. One thing I'm just noticing, though, Mara, at the moment, is that the Japanese walkers have not gone out to do this as a front run. They are a little further down the field, not far, 7 or 8 places back, amongst a pack that also includes the leading Chinese walkers.
Yes, I'm a bit surprised about that. We saw in the men's 50 that Suzuki went straight to the front from the start and led pretty much the whole way. Japanese overwhelmingly a very strong team here. If you look at the top 7 in 2019, the top 7 fastest times, 6 of them are Japanese, and the only person ruining that sweep of fastest times, if you like, is Stano, the Italian, just behind Bird Smith there on the left of that leading group. And all 3 of the Japanese athletes here are in the top 12 all time, so I'm a bit surprised not to see them racing a little bit more aggressively. You'd think they would have been inspired by watching Suzuki win gold in the 50. Suzuki, of course, the world record holder in the 20K, so he is not competing today.
Now, the first red cards have been issued, so these are penalties. Remember, 3 and you go into the penalty zone, where you will have to spend 2 minutes and watch the walkers really leave you behind. And those red cards so far have gone further down the field. The Guatemalan athlete, Jose Barondo, has got one. And right near the back of the field, there is another one. And that is actually for Bonfin in 28th place, the Brazilian medalist, of course, last time out.
The athletes, of course, don't know which judge has given them a red card, so that they can't, when they next go past that judge, take liberties, as it were. So the only way they know if they've got a red card is by looking at the posting board or disqualification board, which is just at the penalty zone area.
Yes, that's a really good point, isn't it? And you know, you can't just think, right, okay, there's a judge there, I know I need to be really careful. He's given me a red card already. As you say, it's totally anonymous, effectively. It's recorded by somebody who stands next to the judge, isn't it, as well?
That's right. The recorder here today, Noel Carmody of Great Britain, his job is to receive electronically the red cards which each of the 8 judges might be giving out. And of course, each judge can only give 1 red card to each athlete. So once they've given a red card, if that athlete later commits further rule infringements, the judges can't give out further red cards.
So we just mentioned the Japanese there, and they are very much in touch. And at the moment, 2 of the 3 walking as a pair. Yamanishi just behind Ikeda there. And they seem quite content at the moment to just stay in that pack. Another person who is happy to use his pace is the athlete in the yellow vest just behind the front 5, and that is the slightly taller figure of Perseus Karlström. Now, I know that in the build-up to these championships, Mara, he's somebody that you actually have been able to focus on in particular.
Yeah, that's right. I managed to speak with him and Evan Dunphy of Canada, who won bronze in the 50 last week, and Quentin Roux of New Zealand, who also went in the 50 last week. Karlström comes from a family of race walkers. His father, Enrique Vera Ibanez, won silver for Mexico in the 1976 World Championships. Interestingly, that walking championship was held separately from the Montreal Olympics of that year, because Montreal controversially dropped the 50k from its program. His mother, Siv, is a 10k bronze medalist from the 1986 European Championships, and his brother, Ato Ibanez, actually competed in the 50k a week ago, finishing in 12th place.
It's chaotic there at those drink stations, isn't it? There are people darting around everywhere. There's bottles going in. And then actually Karlstrom had to apologise to one of the Chinese walkers there because he hurled his bottle away and almost caught him in the face by total accident. So a quick apology there. Interesting to note at the moment, the feeling, just the general feeling, possibly is that on those bends, there is a little bit of leeway being given by the judges just to allow them, because there's such a big group of them turning those bends. There's potential for all sorts of collisions. Stano and Karlstrom, though, you can see Karlstrom there on the right of the picture. Stano's just dropped back into the patch a little bit, into the pack, and he only actually arrived in Doha from Rome in midweek. There he is, just on the right there now. He is somebody who certainly could figure very strongly in the final mix of this race. Karlstrom there as well. He knows how to really be quick over 5 and 10. Can he push it out to 20 and be as strong? But let's have a little think about Stano here.
Yeah, Stano's coach, Gianni Pericelli, he's also the coach of Eleonora Giorgi, who won the bronze medal in the women's 50k a week ago. He's been preparing in Rome, so getting ready for the hot conditions. He's fourth in the 2019 list with 1:17.45 at La Coruña, and fourth in the world rankings. He was fourth at the European Championships last year, and his time at La Coruña earlier was a national record. So Stano, the word on the street is that Stano could be one of the men to beat here.
So we are 22 minutes in, and it's an Italian at the front. Stano with the advantage from Birdsmith. Karlstrom in that group as well. A long way to go, though. Final moments at the start line. Not quite as hot and sweaty there, but taking on plenty of fluid nonetheless. Headgear important. And then a click of the watch, and away they went. An Aussie at the front. And a long way to go. Hot work on the Corniche. And when will the Japanese make their move? Live pictures again then. Birdsmith really dousing his head. Over on the right-hand side there, Callum Wilkinson of Great Britain. Now, I was actually in Bydgoszcz, Mara, 3 years ago now, to see Callum Wilkinson record a bit of history, a first global title for a British race walker since back in the 1960s, as he walked his way to victory on a Saturday morning, on a warm morning in Bydgoszcz, and a moment of great history for British race walking, which is starting to thrive again.
Yes, Tony. So he's based in Leeds, coached by Andy Drake at the National Race Walking Centre. That title, that World Junior title he won in 2016, was the first global title since the late Ken Matthews won at the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. Just 22 years old. He was third, at the European Under-23s earlier this summer, and also won a team silver with his teammate here today, Tom Bosworth, and his other two British teammates who raced in the 50k last weekend. He recently took the 5,000 British record off this man, Tom Bosworth, the elder statesman of British race walking. So Tom holds the world's best time for 1 mile, 3,000 metres indoors and outdoors. He won silver last year at the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, and he's the national record holder, the British record holder over 20k, 6th place at the Rio Olympics as well. But Callum Wilkinson, the youngster, has started to take British records off Tom Bosworth. Tom Bosworth, of course, famously disqualified when he was right up there last time at the World Championships in London.
Yes, and by Steve Taylor, or Steve Taylor was actually the picture that I'm sure many of you will have seen as of Bosworth crying on his shoulder, in a really emotional scene. It was a tough one, that, for Tom Bosworth, who was doing so well on home soil. Now, Callum Wilkinson, let's have a look at his progression there. And look at how he's brought his best time down. Well, from 2018 to 19, He's shaved a minute off it after going 1:22.17 in 2017. This young man certainly with a lot of potential, and he now has made a significant move right up there ahead of Birdsmith, and look right over on the right-hand side, Wang of China is there as well. So Wilkinson, the British walker, so much attention often is on Tom Bosworth, but Wilkinson is making the early drive, although there we are, a warning from Steve Taylor. Ironically, we were just talking about Steve Taylor, the judge. Steve Taylor there with a warning to Callum Wilkinson, a bit of a wry smile. He'll know Steve Taylor a bit from the British scene, obviously, so Steve Taylor just admonishing him slightly, but no card.
Of course, last week in the men's 50k, the two British athletes, both of them disqualified. Cameron Corbishley quite early on in the race, and then his teammate Dominic King a little bit later. So Callum Wilkinson making a really brave move in this men's 20k.
Yes, this is bold, as Tom Bosworth is further back down the field, and at this stage Bosworth is down in 34th place. Wang actually goes through the 6 kilometer mark with the lead. Identical time though to Callum Wilkinson. Birdsmith is up there as well, just 2 seconds behind. And we tick it through, look at the Japanese, Ikeda, Takahashi, there in the top 10. Yamanishi 10th. Karlstrom, look out for him. The Spanish to be strong. Linker, all of these athletes in with a chance, you'd say. Korkmaz, very good junior. Barondo's on a red card. The Irish with Wright there in 30th place at the moment. Big field at the moment, and a big field strewn out, so it's timely that we can look down from our overhead shot and look at the way the light is just beaming down from our drone up there in the sky on the leading pack. And now a move. Maybe we're seeing something significant here, because this is Kaiwa Wang, the 2018 Asian Games champion, who is just starting to push away. Remember, Wilkinson had made a play for things. Wang went with him. Now he's pushed on a bit.
The Chinese race walkers, Tony, are coached by famous Italian race walking coach Sandro da Milano, the brother of Maurizio, who's a two-time world champion in 87 and 91, and also won Olympic gold in Moscow in 1980.
Yeah, he's had a good year as well, Wang. When you look at his record, he's won in Hangshan, he's won in Taisang, and he finished down the field in La Coruña, which was one of the big events of the year, because of course we do have the race walking IAAF challenge, which is a Grand Prix effectively of 12 races across the year, and the 12th and last event of those is coming up in China in 2 weeks' time. And that's a series of races. We just double check there, you can see who's got red cards so far. But well, they walk all over the world, don't they, Mara? They get out to Melbourne, so strong there. They've been in Adelaide, they've been in Taisang, they've been in Europe as well, La Coruña. Here they are in Doha, and then a fortnight from now they'll finish off in China.
That's right, and currently top of the IAAF Race Walking Challenge series is Perseus Karlstrom of Sweden, who we mentioned earlier. Second, one of the Spanish athletes, Diego Garcia, and third is Chao Bonfin. Fourth, Yamanishi. So all these athletes looking to earn valuable points in that race walking challenge series. Of course, they also earn valuable points here in the world rankings, which is one of the ways that the athletes can qualify for the Tokyo Olympics a year from now. Another avenue is to do the qualifying time, and for Tokyo next year that will be 1 hour 21. To qualify for this race here in Doha, they had to walk 1 hour 22:30. Qualification period for Tokyo is already underway. It started on the 1st of January and ends on the 29th of June next year. Races on the track and with the penalty zone are accepted, so that magic 1 hour 21 is what they're looking for during that time. But valuable world rankings points being earned here today.
Now there is Wang at the front. He's got one of those neck sponges that'll be loaded with ice. And now on the left, just look out there. There's the Japanese athlete, it's Yamanishi. So Yamanishi may have just decided, right, Wang, I'm not going to let you get too far. And the world #1 this year, Yamanishi, is just making a break away from that chase pack, which includes Callum Wilkinson, the brief leader. Stano of Italy is still in there.
So Yamanishi wearing the yellow bib of the world leader. Top of the world rankings. And the world leader, 4th on the all-time list. He won in La Coruña earlier this year. So one of the... So looks like he's not too happy to let Wang get away.
No, so the interesting phase we're into here, aren't we, Mara, as we look at this chasing pack as well. And the decision for them is really going to be 13 laps to go, 4:22 for that kilometre. So we're seeing the pace go up a little bit now, aren't we? But the interesting decision for them is how far are they prepared to go? How far, for example, is Karlstrom prepared to let them go? Because with his pace, he might still feel he can reel them in. Further back, though, the likes of Bosworth of Britain are struggling a little bit. Well, he's moved up somewhat. He's now 23rd position, and he's averaging 4:29 per kilometre. The leaders, though, averaging a couple of seconds quicker than that at this stage. And now Yamanishi is effectively making it a 2 at the front. So Wang, well, if he's not aware of him, I'm sure he can almost feel Yamanishi breathing right down his neck there now. The world leader right on the shoulder of the Chinese walker. Yamanishi stalking while having a drink.
Yeah, he really put his foot down to close that gap there. And interesting, you see that white collar he's got on. I think that's full of ice, maybe not cubes, but ice patches perhaps. So we saw Suzuki winning the 50K last weekend, getting a fresh one of those almost at every stop.
So we're relatively low on red cards at the moment. Castaneda has got one, but now one of the 2 Barondos from Guatemala, Jose Alejandro Barondo, he has 2 red cards, so they are penalties. Those are the ones that count. Don't worry so much about the paddles, they're just warnings. As there we are, Barondo with those 2 red cards, and of course that is something that can slow you down. He's gone 4:31 on average per kilometre so far. Both of those red cards are for loss of contact.
One interesting character in this race, Tony, is Andres Chocho of Ecuador. He actually competed a week ago in the men's 50K. He's the only athlete in this field doubling up. He's also the oldest in the field, 35 years old. So there, Barondo, that is Eric Barondo. His younger cousin, Jose Barondo, also in this race.
And a 3rd card for Jose Barondo. So he will be the first athlete to go into the penalty zone. So we'll watch how that plays out. You'll see him taken into the penalty zone. He'll serve a 2-minute penalty in there. It'll feel a lot longer than 2 minutes, I'm sure, Mara, when they go in there and have to stand there and just watch everybody troop away into the sunset.
Absolutely, 2 minutes feels like an eternity. When I spoke to Perseus Karlstrom a few weeks ago, he said he'd been in the penalty zone once and he really stiffened up and had difficulty getting going again. One of the measures the organisers have laid on here to help with the difficult conditions is they've provided cold water and ice in the penalty zone so that the athletes, while they're spending that 2-minute penalty in there, can cool themselves down.
Just a reminder, it's Jose Alejandro Barondo who will be going into the penalty zone because they are related. Eric, he hasn't got any at the moment, so obviously they'll be making sure they've got the right number vest when they take them into the penalty zone. And look at this break from Yamanishi now. He's really strode away, and I just wonder how significant this moment is. 34 minutes in with probably another 50 minutes to go. Yamanishi maybe is making a decisive break here.
Yeah, he's really got a gap on Wang there. And only once before in the history of the World Championships has the same country won both the 20 and 50K for men. That was Spain back in 1993. So if Yamanishi can win here, this will be just the 2nd time they've won both men's racewalking titles.
So he was content to sit in the pack for the first few kilometres, but he's made a move away now as we see the German, the tall figure of Linker there further back. And here is the chief judge, Daniel Michaud, and he's standing by as Bosworth goes through. Standing by to put somebody into the penalty zone. It will be Barondo. And there are 12 laps to go now.
The latest split we've had from the leader, Yamanishi, was 4:15. So him really piling on the pressure And Wang behind him, the latest split at 8K was 4:24. But Koki Ikeda currently in third place. He did a split of 4:19. So Ikeda looks like he might be wanting to join his teammate Yamanishi up at the front there. Bit surprised to see Karlström right up there. When I spoke to him, he said he was going to take it steady and really move through the field in the latter stages. And there we see Borondo into the penalty zone. So the first athlete in this 20K to serve a penalty. And the screen there you can see has the countdown clock on it. Once it gets to 2 minutes up, it will turn green and he will be allowed to leave.
Yes, and Leiva as well, as you can see, is also going to face a penalty. So the Mexican in there as well. Good opportunity for a break for the athlete in the penalty zone, and this is how it all happened. That's the view from the chief judge, Daniel Michaud, with assistants there, and he directs them in. So there he is.
And 2 minutes there on the yellow paddle, you can see that's the penalty they serve in this race. It's 5 minutes in the 50K, but just 2 minutes in this race. So Yamanishi looking very controlled and steady at the moment.
So Karlström at the moment is actually trying to, we think, just kind of use Wang, who's at the front of the second group. 7 seconds the gap. He's trying to use him just to hang on in there at the moment. So tough moments for Karlström, possibly feeling this pace now. Stano up there as well. Ikeda of Japan in second. The Japanese certainly not doing this as a team because they are now strewn out across 3 groups. But you just sense this looks quite ominous from Yamanishi at the moment. His last split, as we mentioned, was 4:15, and we'll get news on another one shortly.
So a big move from Yamanishi relatively early on in the race. Just at 8K, we're not even at halfway yet.
Now then, there is the Mexican, Leiva, into the penalty zone as well, joining Borondo. So their countdown clocks at very different stages. You can see them in the distance there, just in front of the grandstand. Final seconds now. Say that.
And there we can see Noel Carmody, the recorder there, at his computer. So he's recording the red cards. And Borondo now out of the penalty zone, served his 2 minutes in there.
But you saw there, Mara, didn't you, what that had done to him? Because as he came out to walk up that home straight, you saw the chase pack from the other side. So 2 minutes, it's so costly at this stage. Yamanishi's lead, Borondo well back.
Yeah, 2 minutes in a 1.5 or so hour long race is a huge penalty, and he has to work really hard now to get back into the race. And of course now he's had 3 cards and been in the penalty zone. If he gets a 4th, he's out.
Now this is a gap that is starting to open up here, isn't it? Yamanishi on his own, on the left of the screen, the chase pack. Now, this is interesting. Karlström, he might not have wanted to go this early, but I think he realizes that if he doesn't go, Yamanishi's going to get away and he'll never catch him. So Karlström now is making a move. Can the others hold on to his tail, if you like? Stano there, Ikeda.
Karlström was absolutely clear when I spoke to him a few weeks back that the podium, the medal podium, was his target for this race. He won the European Cup in Alytus in Lithuania earlier this summer in a national record. And top of the IAAF Race Walk Challenge Series that we mentioned earlier.
So they're in a 4. There's then a little break for 2, and then you can see the likes of Wilkinson and Bird Smith almost out of shot now in that 3rd group. So 11 laps to go. 11 laps left in this race walk. We've had 9 kilometers, and here is the leader. He's the world leader, Yamanishi. He's walked 1:17.15 back in March this year, a long year, but at the moment, with just under 40 minutes on the clock as he crossed 9 kilometers, he's got a 13-second lead over Karlström, who is realizing that he is going to have to get a move on if he's going to challenge for the gold medal position, because Yamanishi could just take this away from them. He looks very strong at the moment, and he's taking on fluids and some ice around the neck there as well. And he also has no red cards to his name. That's the thing that, of course, risks slowing him down. Judges can get more strict as things go on, but so far the leading pack you have to go down to 6th, and Mizinov, competing here as an authorised neutral athlete, he's the only one of the leading 10 who has got a red card at the moment, and that was for a loss of contact punishment. Choco down there in 18th place as well, Mara. People doubling up, doing 50k and then doing the 20k. Not so many this week.
Yeah, that's right. There were several entered in both the 20 and the 50, but only Chocho of Ecuador has actually started both events. Interestingly, it has been done very successfully in the past. Ron Wiegel from Germany, coach of some of the German athletes here, he won 2 silver medals at the '88 Olympic Games, one in the 20, one in the 50. And Polish race walk legend Robert Korzeniowski won 2 gold medals in both walking events at the Sydney Olympic Games. The scheduling is interesting in terms of whether it's possible to double, because last weekend the 50k for men and women was held on one day, the women's 20k the next day, so not possible for the women to double, but we've had almost a week's gap between the men's 50 and 20, so possible for them to double.
28 seconds back from this man Yamanishi is the much talked about Briton Tom Bosworth. We talked about his 2017 campaign. He briefly led in the 20k walk in the capital of the UK, London, and then he was disqualified, and that really led to a very tough time for him in his career. I mean, he's talked quite openly about the mental challenges that he's had.
That's right, Tony. He suffered a period of mental ill health. He was quite open about it. Sounded like he fell into depression because of that disqualification and his goals just going out the window. And he's also had injury trouble leading into this race, but it's great to see him back and really giving it everything. A lot of athletes suffer from mental ill health. We see it much more now in the media, and great to see Tom Bosworth feeling able to be open and honest about it, and back here racing on the biggest stage.
And he's actually moved up to 16th now, so he was down between 20th and 30th earlier. So he is starting to eat up the rest of the group, but the question is just how far he can move up there as he takes another slug of water. Well, he's going to in fact just hydrate the rest of his body at the moment and cool his head down. Callum Wilkinson briefly led. Remember, he's the Briton who changed race walking history with that first global title since the early 1960s when he won in Bydgoszcz, and he's in a group now that includes the early leader Bird Smith and the tall figure of Linker of Germany there as well. The Germans arrived here in pretty good form.
They certainly did. Linker coached by Wiegel, we were mentioning earlier. And coming back to Callum Wilkinson, I watched him doing a training session up in Leeds at the National Race Walking Centre. It was absolutely phenomenal, so smooth and yet so young, only 22 years old.
There's an idea of the breakdown then. So Yamanishi, the leading group, he is the leader on his own, and at the moment the gap 13 seconds to the chasing Karlström, Wang, Stano, Ikeda, Mizinov and Korkmaz, somebody we haven't mentioned yet. Now Korkmaz I've seen perform well at junior level. He took the bronze in that race in Bydgoszcz that Callum Wilkinson won. So one to keep an eye on in that chase pack.
Yep. Korkmaz, representing Turkey, won the silver medal over 20k at the European Under-23 Championships earlier this year. Only 22 years of age, national record holder, 1:20:35 set this year.
The shorter distance can produce some close finishes. At the moment, Yamanishi is threatening to walk away with this one, though. The smallest margin we've ever had, just 2 seconds back in 2001, and indeed, it was 2 seconds last time out when Aravaglio beat Shurabakov in London 2 years ago.
Arevalo of Colombia, of course, the defending champion, not here after his cycling accident. And interestingly, we've now got the latest 1 kilometre split for Yamanishi, 4:20. So he's slowed some 5 seconds from his last split, 4:15. So just wondering if Yamanishi is starting to pay for that surge that he did earlier to get that gap. But he looks pretty comfortable at the moment and still has a 17-second gap at 10k back to Karlström.
That's right, and of course Karlström there went through in 4:24 in the last kilometre, so he's 4 seconds slower than Yamanishi, and so that 4 seconds. Well, if you remember, when the last time we showed you that graphic, it was 13 seconds to the chase back. It's now 17 because you tag the 4 on, and we're at the halfway stage now in this men's 20 kilometers race walk. This is the leader. He's the best in the world this year, and at the moment he's extending his lead at the front. Yamanishi of Japan. It's in his hands at the moment at the halfway stage.
We've talked about former race walking greats becoming coaches and coaching some of these athletes here today. The Japanese head coach for race walking is Fumio Imamura. He's a 7 times world championship representative. Started in Tokyo in 1991 all the way through to Athens in 97. His best place was sixth in Athens in 97. Amazingly, Japan has never won a medal in this race, in this event, despite having such a formidable team here. Imamura also, he won bronze in the Asian Games in Hiroshima in 94 and silver in Bangkok in 98. So both those races in very hot conditions, Hiroshima and Bangkok. They tend to perform better overseas these days, the Japanese and the Chinese, that is. Previously, they would produce fantastic performances at home, not so good overseas, but they seem to have really learnt how to travel, as it's talked about in the race walking community. They travel much better now.
There's that ice pack around Yamanishi's neck, trying to keep him cool. See Barondo there. Now, don't think that he's in second. He's just been lapped by the leader, who goes round the loop. Let's have a look at Yamanishi as well. All sorts of efforts they need to stay cool, but you can see the ice pack is pretty sharp when you first apply it, and he may have actually just cut himself on just underneath his neck there, Mara.
Yeah, looks like it's sort of chafing a bit on his neck. I wonder if it's a bit hard plastic. And also interesting to see him wearing glasses in this race. It's been so humid here. When you walk outside from having been inside, if you've got glasses on, your glasses steam up. Yep. But Yamanishi seems to be having no trouble with his glasses there.
We've got more news of an athlete heading to the penalty zone. It's going to be Castaneda, who was one of the early contenders, the Colombian who we talked about. He's on 3 reds, so he will be the 3rd walker to go into the penalty zone. He's going to face 2 minutes in there, and then he's going to be well back down the field as Yamanishi, with that blood just trickling down towards the top of his vest, continues to lead this 20K race walk.
And quite a few athletes there on 2 red cards. Ljakovic of Belarus, Bonfim of Brazil, and also Bonfim also on 2. So any of those athletes could end up in the penalty zone.
That's Castaneda there, who goes into the penalty zone.
Castaneda of Colombia.
And I think we also have news of a disqualification. Yes, Barondo, who has already been in the penalty zone, well, he's come out and then promptly received a 4th red card, and all for the same infringement, the loss of contact. Now, look, Yamanishi's had enough of that. So he's thrown that, almost that ice neck brace off, and he's gone back to the hat.
And he threw away his previous hat, and he's got another hat, and I think he's got ice in that hat.
And you can just see that blood there on the top of the vest, so an irritation for him at this stage, if nothing else, as he powers on in the gold medal position.
Yep, through 11K, Yamanishi 4:20 for his latest split, still some 13 seconds.
But interestingly, Karlstrom quicker, so they've closed the gap by 4 seconds there. Karlstrom has just gone through and led that chasing pack in a split of 4 minutes 16, so they've gained 4 seconds on the leader.
And Ikeda of Japan also 4:16 for that last split, and further down the field the Turkish Korkmaz and Italian Stano on 4:17 and 4:18. So all of them, all that 4 now going quicker than Yamanishi at 11K. Looking a bit further down the field again, Mizinov also 4:19. Wang 4:21. So Yamanishi just about maintaining his lead, but the closing group just chipping away at that gap.
So Karlstrom, Korkmaz, Stano, Ikeda, Wang dropping off a further 5 seconds behind that group. He's alongside Mizinov there. And Wang may be just struggling a little bit here. He's Mizinov's moving away from him, so Wang in danger of joining the fourth group, which is led by the Briton Callum Wilkinson and includes Bird Smith, the other Japanese walker Takahashi, and Bosworth has actually moved right up through the field. I mean, he was well down the field early on, and he's made his way up now, and he's 28 seconds behind the leader.
Tom Bosworth now in 12th place, moving up through the field. China, of course, has won the past 2 Olympic Games, but neither of those Olympic champions competing here today.
We've got 7 of the world's 10 fastest walkers here.
And Mamani there on the left of your screens in the white shirt with the red diagonal design. He's from Peru. He's the youngest in this field, just 20 years old.
And you saw Bosworth go through the shot there. A slight grimace on the face, it has to be said. This is hard work for the British walker in warm, humid, quite muggy, close conditions tonight down on the Corniche. And Yamanishi, well, he's eating up this field, isn't he? Singh of India, straight past him. And look at not just overtaking him, but he glides past him, and with every pace he stretches away. And it's a tremendous example of the contrast in technique and skill there, as Yamanishi, under the cap, with the glasses on, moves away. But Karlstrom, as there goes Yamanishi past the other Australian, that's Rydian Cowley. Yamanishi looking very comfortable, but Karlstrom as well, further back among the chase pack. The word we get is that he still looks comfortable.
Yeah, Karlstrom promised he would be strong in the second half. He is, of course, the world leader over 5,000 and 10,000 metres. Coached since November last year by Australian coaching legend Brent Valance, who previously coached multi-global Olympic and world medal winner Jared Talent from Australia. So Stano and Karlstrom, are they making moves? Some hand gestures there from Stano. The coaches are, of course, on the course, and many of them will be on the personal refreshment station, so they can be telling their athletes what position they're in, what red cards have been issued to people there, to the other athletes they're walking with, tactics. So, and that is Mizinov, the authorized neutral athlete, currently in 6th place at 12k into this race. Mizinov was the European bronze medalist last year, just 21 years old, and he also won the gold medal at the European Under-23 Championships earlier this summer.
We've got news of a retirement as well, and I think it is Cantera of Mexico who has dropped out of the race. So we have lost one athlete deciding to go. Remember, Borondo is out. We've now had 5 athletes in the penalty zone, so they are starting to rack up these infringements. And interestingly, Stano on our score system, who is in 2nd place at the moment, he's chasing this man, Yamanishi, and the gap down to 12, but Stano's on 2 red cards, so he now is walking literally a fine line, Mara.
Absolutely, so Stano in danger here. You know, in this stage of the race, you really need to push on, but if he's on 2 reds, he really has to be careful with his technique. His 2 reds were for loss of contact, so really needs to be careful. We saw that in the men's 50k. One of the Chinese athletes, was on 2 red cards and ended up getting dropped. Chinese in that race finishing in 4th and 5th, but this second group looking very solid.
There's Callum Wilkinson. You can see Linker behind him, just still getting some words from the sidelines. Wilkinson goes past the British flags.
Yeah, Wilkinson currently in 7th place, some 23 seconds off the leader. So Callum Wilkinson is chasing down Mizinov in 6th, and then to the chasing group. So Callum Wilkinson is having a sensational race today. Just 22 years old. He's on 1 red card, Wilkinson.
Another athlete just about to leave the penalty zone, that's Mamani. So after serving 2 minutes, he goes back out onto the course. A disqualification to confirm. Borondo, and then Zimmerman, Castaneda, Leva and Mamani have all served penalty time. And look at that group now. who are in danger, and probably chief among them, Stano, also the bronze medalist from London, Bonfin, Pintado as well, who we had pictured at the start of the race. He's on 2 reds, and a whole group on 1, including both the British athletes, so that could hold up Wilkinson just a little bit at the moment. He's only on the 1, remember it's 3, and you're into the penalty zone.
Karlström of Sweden there looking very relaxed. He trains with Evan Dunphy, who won the bronze in the 50k last week with an incredible finish. He came right through the field up to bronze and nearly even pipped Portugal's Vieira on the line for second. So I wonder if he's been giving Karlström, his training buddy, some tips. And there we see Linke of Germany and Wilkinson. And Wilkinson is going to lap Linke.
So, yeah, Linke, the Germans arrived here in good form as we look at the leader again. And, well, we're just judging by the naked eye at the moment, though, but there's Yamanishi, and look at the yellow, tall figure of Karlström in the back there. And on the last split, a second improved by Karlström, so they made up 1 second on him. But they'll need to do a little better.
So through 12k, Yamanishi had a 12-second lead on that chase pack. They were a few seconds quicker than him on the last split, but down to about 1 second faster now. So has Yamanishi done enough to keep this gap until the final stages?
Karlström playing to the audience there as well. Swedish flag there. And he gave it a little wave as he went past it, saying, come on, keep me going here. He's in this race, in that chase pack, trying to catch the man who leads. But there we are, 13 kilometers, 7 kilometers to go. The lead is now 14 seconds. So Yamanishi responds.
Yeah, Yamanishi some 2 seconds faster on that last split than the chasing group, so he's going away. Although Mizinov down in 6th place, he's still going just a tiny bit, 1 second faster than Yamanishi. So Mizinov catching that second group. He's only 4 seconds behind them at 13k, and Callum Wilkinson in 7th, some 7 seconds further adrift from Mizinov.
Now, great shot from the aerial camera there, but it also, look at how wet the road is. Now, that can make it slippery. It's still very warm and humid, hovering around the 30 Celsius mark, and as they go round the bend there, that's where it can be slippery as well. So you've got to watch your step as Yamanishi will walk down now, and look at them crisscross. So Yamanishi on the right, chase pack on the left, and Yamanishi will have had a right look at them and a look over in their eyes and say, folks, I'm not going to let you catch me. But they're saying, we are after you.
And it's bad news behind Yamanishi for the Italian Stano. He is now on 3 red cards for loss of contact, so he'll be going to the penalty zone as the next time he reaches it. So that chase pack from 4 down to 3 now.
Ikeda, Stano heading to the penalty zone. So yes, the biggest victim so far of the judges and their red cards. That 3rd red card will have gone in, and Stano, next time he goes past the penalty zone, will be ushered into it. He'll spend 120 seconds in there. So Karlström, Ikeda and Korkmaz, and Stano bidding farewell really to his chances in this race, unless something quite unbelievable happens to all the other leaders.
And in that chasing group, Karlström, Ikeda and Korkmaz have no red cards, none at all, so they are in a much stronger position. And Korkmaz now putting pressure on the tall Swedish Karlström. Is Korkmaz trying to close the gap on Yamanishi?
There's Mizinov on his own, 6th place at the moment, the authorised neutral athlete. Still the flags waving on the Corniche tonight. Mizinov in 6th place at the moment, just under the hour mark here. And you can just get an idea, there is a little bit more breeze out there tonight.
The athletes here, of course, not only racing for glory, but also prize money, which is on offer for the top 8 athletes. We talked about the qualification time for the Tokyo Olympics next year, 1:21. Different countries may impose further criteria on their athletes. And we heard last week the Spanish Federation talking about their athletes having done a qualifier in terms of finishing order.
So Yamanishi continues to lead, 14 seconds is the advantage. Just when we talk about the conditions, you can see the moisture and also the efforts they're going to stay cool. For you, Mara, when you competed, when you knew you were going to a hot environment, what kind of preparations and things did you have to take into account? What did you do?
So I did 2 weeks of heat acclimatization in Tokyo, which is where I was living at the time. But I previous to that, I was in St. Moritz at high altitude training, and you can't just go from a nice cool environment straight into a hot environment. So I would wake up really early, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when it was cool, just do light training. And then as I gradually acclimatized, I would do slightly more training and later in the day.
We've had another disqualification further back down the field. We saw Mamani, and he's number 1006. And Jose Carlos Mamani of Peru is disqualified. And there is Stano at the 14-kilometer mark. Well, his podium hope's effectively over because he's got to serve a 2-minute penalty. He can get some refreshment while he's in there. They don't normally have refreshments in the penalty zone, but they do here. A few words there. Oh, and you can see the frustration because he wanted to be in this race, and he knows right now that he's probably, almost certainly, out of it. This is how he was ushered in.
So, real shame for Stano. He came into this race in really great form. We were hearing that he was going to be one of the athletes to beat. He can, of course, still finish, get a finish time and a position, but I think his chances of being up there fighting for the medal sadly are over.
Yes, and he's got just over a minute still to serve in that penalty zone. All he can do is pace around. All he can do is listen to his coaches. I'm not sure what they can tell them at this stage that would perhaps pacify him. Well, there we go. He seems to have calmed down a bit. Yeah, what do you reckon then? What do you reckon, Stano? Yeah, he does. I wish it wasn't me, he's saying.
So, and Yamanishi piling on the pressure at the front of the race through 14K. He had a 16-second lead on the chase group. 4:14, Yamanishi's latest split. So Yamanishi going away slightly from that chasing group.
And I'm looking at the scoreboard, and as we look at the gap, it's 16 seconds now, so it's gone up. Karlström, Korkmaz and Ikeda. Remember, Stano out of the picture now. Bosworth and Wilkinson are now together, the two Britons, in a chase pack of their own, 31 seconds behind the leader. 50 seconds back is Takahashi. But Mara, the scorecard now is littered with red cards.
Absolutely. So the two Brits you just mentioned there in 6th and 7th place, but both of them on cards. So Bosworth on 1 card for loss of contact, Callum Wilkinson on 2 cards for loss of contact. So Callum Wilkinson needs to be really careful now. But Bosworth moved him through the field amazingly. He was back down in 20-something place early on. Korkmaz in 3rd, Ikeda going down, him now in 4th place. Mizinov up to 5th, so Mizinov really keeping the pressure up. He's on 1 card for loss of contact. Eiki Takahashi down in 8th place, he's on 1 card for knee, and Bosworth there really grimacing, looking like he's struggling.
He's moved right up though, actually, hasn't he? And he's actually moved on beyond Callum Wilkinson. So Bosworth on 1 card, Wilkinson on 2 red cards. This man has a clear card, Yamanishi. There is Bosworth, though, and he was right down the field earlier on. He's moved from way down. I think he was 26th, 27th at one point, maybe further back down this 50-strong field. He's up to 6th. A disqualification, though, that we can show you that's happened in the last few minutes in the race. Let's just take a look back now at the red paddle. There it is, the red card in the background, and that is game over.
So Mamani of Peru, the youngest in the field, sadly disqualified, and his race is over.
Great shot that is, looking right down the corniche. Look at the illuminated street there. The drinks area is absolutely sodden now with water, and the finish line in the distance. And that is a tremendous shot. This is like something we really have not seen at an IAAF World Championship race walk ever before. There's the list of the penalised athletes on a brutal night for them. Barondo's out, Mamani's out, Zimmerman into the penalty zone, Castaneda, Stano and Lever as well. And then the other athletes now dicing with it a little bit. Liakovic, Bonfam, Pintado and Wilkinson. But there's the leader. Losnev's blowing us a kiss. Yeah, thumbs up, well done.
We saw on the U-turn just back there, the road getting really quite wet now. We're just about coming up to 15k, so into the last 5k, and that road on the turn getting really wet. I'm just wondering if we're going to see a bit more loss of contact down there. So Yamanishi, last split, 4:08, so
yes.
He is piling on the pressure. 4:08 through 15k, so 5 laps to go for Japan's Yamanishi at the front of this race. Now Karlström is now through 15k as well, and a lead of 15 seconds.
Oh, look! Oh dear, and we've lost an athlete at the back there, so it is really can be tough. There's fantastic medical facilities on offer for all the athletes here, and they'll be very quickly dealing with that German walker there whose race is over. Karlström there among the chase pack. Now, Yamanishi, we had a predicted win time, Mara, of 1 hour 24 to 25, and Yamanishi, by putting the burners on a little bit, he's going to hit that at this point. 4:08 for the last split.
Yeah, 4:08. If he'd been doing that the whole way, 4:08 would be somewhere in the region of 1:22 finish time. But don't forget, they started off very slowly. He hasn't been doing 4:08 throughout. He's been doing more like 4:17, 18. So I think we're looking at a finishing time of somewhere in the region of 1:25, 1:27, something like that. The slowest, the women's winning time, sorry, just 2 minutes slower than the previous record slowest time. The slowest winning time in the men's 20k up to now, 1:23.34 from Seville back in 1999. I think we're going to see a winning time perhaps slower than that. So Karlström in second place now, coming through the field. 4:07 his last split, so going faster just by 1 second than Yamanishi, much faster than the other athletes down the field. The quickest there is 4:16 for that last split from Mizunov. So Mizunov is coming through the field, but Karlström now in hot pursuit of Yamanishi at the front of the race, and in third place at 15k was Korkmaz from Turkey.
What a sight that is on the Corniche. That is sensational. Fantastic pictures, and here's where we stand. Karlström just closing the gap. He's on his own now. He's piled away. 4:07 for his last split. That is quick in these conditions, but he was always confident that he could time this, and always confident that he was prepared to let somebody break away a bit. But the question is, has he got the timing right, and is Yamanishi going to slow down?
So Karlström now, he's the world leader over 5,000, 10,000 this year. He's strong in the closing stages. 15-second gap to Yamanishi. Can Karlström walk Yamanishi down in the final stages?
Well, it's all pretty tense now. Just 5 kilometers to go, the final quarter of the race. Bosworth and Wilkinson, the two British walkers, are now both on 2 red cards, so that could well hinder their hopes of trying to push up into the medal places. Yamanishi continues with a clean card to lead this race. He's led now for some time, having taken it on and gone on his own, and he's marched out, and look, he's going past Pintado here, who's having a difficult night in these conditions. Yamanishi, though, he's looking pretty strong at the moment and striding on ever closer to the magic podium and a gold medal as things stand.
Japan never having won a medal in this event, likewise for Sweden. So if Yamanishi and Karlström can win medals in this race, they'll be the first.
But now Callum Wilkinson, 3 red cards. So one of the British athletes is now going to be going into the penalty zone. So Callum Wilkinson's top 10 chances have just been stilted somewhat, because he's going to have to serve a 2-minute penalty. He's got a long way, or no, actually he hasn't got too far. He's just got down there on the right-hand side. So he's going to be going into the penalty zone shortly. Bosworth is behind him, so Wilkinson had actually moved in front of his fellow Briton, but he is about to face penalty. He'll have a view of the scoreboard as he walks towards the penalty zone, so he may well know that he's facing a 2-minute penalty, but if he didn't know, well, he's about to find out, because the chief judge is going to be waiting for him, and he's also there as the official with the 2-minute warning. There you are, Callum Wilkinson, you must go in for 2 minutes. So a good sign there of how it all works.
Looking at his face there, I don't think he realised he was on 3. So
oh, what a frustration for him, because he was going really well, really well. Remember, he made a bit of history, and he's looking back down the course and thinking, this 2 minutes, what can he do in this 2 minutes? Well, all he can do is have a drink and contemplate what he can do for the rest of this race.
So Callum,
stay loose as well.
Callum Wilkinson was really putting the pressure on there. He broke Bosworth's 5,000 metre British record earlier this year. It's been going so well, and his third card, all for loss of contact from Wilkinson, and Bosworth on 2 cards for loss of contact. Bosworth currently in 6th place.
Now, we were warned the judging would probably be a little bit more stringent than in the other races this week, and I think we are seeing evidence of that at the moment. There's the leader, Yamanishi, and he's just gone through his last split in 4:11, and Karlström is gaining ground on him. So Karlström in second has gone through in 4:09. The lead, there we have it, 13 seconds. So can the gap be closed? But there is only 4 kilometers to go. Karlström, if he was to keep this up, he's going to close about 8 of those, but he's going to need a little bit more. Has he got any more? There he is, right of the screen. So the leader on the left, second on the right. That is the battle for gold, and it's the man on the left still very much in possession of it at the moment, but Karlström trying to gain. Mizunov, he's timed things well. He's in the bronze medal position. Korkmaz, the Turk, is in 4th. Ikeda of Japan in 5th. We've seen no real Japanese teamwork, and the other thing I think is we watch Wilkinson. He wants to get out there, doesn't he? He's desperate to get back out there, gets his watch going and rejoins the fray. 3 red cards, remember, so he's going to have to be really careful. But interestingly as well, Mara, for me, the highest ranked Chinese walker at the moment is Kaiwa Wang, and he is in 7th place. And his splits are well down on the leaders.
Yeah, we've not seen anything like what we saw in the women's 20K from the Chinese athletes. They came here really strong. They've got incredible depth, but so far not in the medals for the Chinese men here. Meanwhile, Mizunov is up in 3rd place. Still not going as fast as Yamanishi, but Karlström is closing on Yamanishi.
And Yamanishi can glance across, can't he, as they do that loop, and he'll be able to see Karlström, and he'll just have to try and assess whether he's extending his lead or whether he's seeing it eaten into. Karlström is the quicker at the moment, but not by much.
And Kai of China, they're really struggling. He went past Yamanishi briefly. Of course, he was being lapped by Yamanishi, but just tried to stay with Yamanishi, but
yes,
Kai looks like he's retiring.
Yeah, Zhelin Kai, second at the 2016 World Team Championships, then silver medalist at the Olympics. It just shows you what can happen. Castaneda out, gone. Castaneda is gone. That's a 4th red card for him. So Castaneda is out. And in fact, that's Castaneda. So Castaneda is the latest to be disqualified. 4 in all at the moment. And remember, there are 4 living dangerously. Wilkinson particularly living dangerously with 3 laps to go. Remember, he's been knocked right down the rankings by a 2-minute time penalty anyway by spending time in the penalty zone. This is what happened as he just left the penalty zone. So you're just getting back in the race, you're frustrated. Straight away, he's given a paddle warning. Remember, that is just a warning, though.
And Callum Wilkinson, after leaving the penalty zone, looks like he's down in 12th place. So had been in around 6th place, now down into 12th place.
Well, you can see leads eaten into very late in a race. That soaked and doused main road that's normally got traffic all over it on the seafront here. Well, it's just at the moment got water bottles strewn everywhere and walkers all over a 1 kilometre loop. But it's not unusual to see a big lead go in the last 3 kilometres, and that's where we are as we go through 17K. In the European Under-23 Championships, a Turk lost a 25-second lead in the last 3 kilometres, Morris. So, I mean, it's not all over.
This race is definitely not over. So Yamanishi only a lead of 16 seconds at 17K with 3 laps to go. But Karlström putting on the pressure, although Karlström now through 17K, 3 seconds slower than Yamanishi. So Karlström has got a lot of work to do if he can get back to Yamanishi and get rid of that gap, looking perhaps like he's struggling a tiny bit there. The tall Swede from the family of world-class race walkers, just with 3 laps to go. Can he find another gear and close that gap?
Yes, you just sense perhaps in trying to haul Yamanishi in, he may have paid the price, because a 3-second advantage there from Yamanishi, who's striding on purposefully now, and that could have been a very, very important last split. That 3-second advantage, Yamanishi, it really, for Karlström to have much of a chance, you probably feel he needed to be the one making up 3 seconds there, not losing 3 seconds. So 3 laps to go. You see it on the marker on the scoreboard in the background there. Still being urged on. Great crowd lining the Corniche here tonight. 16 seconds the advantage. 3K to go. Mizunov up in third, but 35 seconds behind the leader. Korkmaz a further 10 seconds back, and I think Karlström's starting to struggle a bit now.
Yeah, he doesn't look quite as relaxed and confident as he did previously. We saw him just glance behind a moment ago, but Sweden have never won a medal in this event, so can Karlström be the first Swedish athlete to win a medal in the men's 20K?
That's the athlete chasing there, Karlström. There is Mizunov, and of course, as this progresses, if Karlström starts to really slow down, Mizunov could have his eyes on pressing for a place on the podium as second rather than third. At the moment, he's in possession of the bronze medal, 9-10 seconds ahead of Korkmaz, and really it's about those 4, because Ikeda, the next best, 1 minute and 8 seconds behind. Remember, Tom Bosworth is in 6th place. He's got 2 red cards to his name. The 3 red cards, because there's been so many penalties, has meant that Wilkinson's only dropped down to 11th. But there is Bosworth, and well, that's a familiar kind of expression on his face, but it shows the kind of arduous challenge that he's taking on there, those long legs, striding forward. Bosworth, at the moment, still on 2 reds, but his splits are slowing. He's down to 4 minutes 40 on his last K, so he is feeling the heat now.
And the Chinese athlete just behind in 7th place, behind Bosworth, going some 12 seconds faster than Bosworth. So Bosworth really struggling now.
This is brutal. This is really tough. There is one of the Chinese, that's Chai. And
he was the silver medalist at the Rio Olympics, so he is really not having a good day today.
Neither is Callum Wilkinson of Britain, because he has now received the 4th red card, so his World Championship race walk is over. There's only 2 laps to go now. We're at the 1 hour 18 mark. This is the man heading for gold. It'll be a historic moment for Japanese race walking. Yamanishi is leading. He went out front pretty early, and he's marched away from the field, and he's striding with every step towards the gold medal, and I'm not sure that there's much that anyone can do about it now. Karlström is going to have to produce something extraordinary, or Yamanishi is going to have to receive some punishment. In fact, Karlström is slowing right down, Mara. He's 9 seconds he's lost on that last split, and suddenly now, look at that lead, it's huge.
Yeah, 25 seconds now, the lead for Yamanishi. Karlström, his last split, 4:22. So Karlström, we wondered if he was struggling a moment ago. I think he certainly is. And meanwhile, Mizunov in 3rd place is on 4:13 splits, 10 seconds behind Karlström. So Karlström now in danger of being overtaken by the authorised neutral athlete.
Yes, it's maybe it's in Mizunov's hands to hunt down his prey now, and Karlström fading at 4:22 on his last split, and Mizunov did 4:13, so Mizunov actually made up 9 seconds on the last split. Korkmaz in 4th, rest of the field way back now, way back, including the likes of Bosworth. Wilkinson gone, he was 11th, he's been disqualified. Stano, remember, in 14th. We saw him go into the penalty zone earlier on. He's recovered to 14th, but he is way back. So we look through the crowd, and you can see there, that is Callum Wilkinson, and sadness, frustration for the Britain, their first global medalist at a World Championship when he won the World Junior, but it's over for him in Doha tonight.
Sad to see Wilkinson so frustrated there. Was the 2 Brits in the 50K also disqualified, but he really went for it. And there he is getting disqualified by the chief judge.
Yes, that the moment you never want. And here was the view from the eyes of Daniel Michaud. And it's all over for Callum Wilkinson. So a sad sight for the British walker. Disappointment for him. It was going well. Bosworth is still in there, and he's in 6th position at the moment, but he's a long way behind, and his splits are slowing on the front 5. So his chances of reaching the podium probably unlikely. You see Yamanishi's just gone past Callum Wilkinson there. And Yamanishi, for me, Mara, he just looks absolutely in tempo. He looks focused, and it's hard to see him giving this up now. He's
got no red cards. He looks so relaxed, doesn't he? He looks like he could go a lot faster.
Well, normally, of course, it's not inconceivable. You'll often see, as we look at the chaser, it is Karlström, and he's well behind. Yamanishi himself this year has actually completed a 20K course in 1 hour 17 minutes. That's the fastest time of the year. It's the 4th fastest in history. But look at the clock, 1:21, so it just gives you an idea of the slower pace that we're seeing on the Corniche tonight.
So definitely looks like we're on track for the slowest ever time recorded in this event, and that's not at all a surprise because of the hot conditions and the relatively pedestrian pace that they set off at.
They're trying to chase him down. This is Mizunov, who's one of them, and Mizunov, well, last month in a race, he actually put in a really fast finish to get in to the placings, and he is the kind of athlete that can steam forward, and he's matching Yamanishi's pace at the moment. He may not be able to catch Yamanishi, but he's certainly going to have Karlström in his midst. But a word of caution on that is that Percy, as he's known, Percy is Karlström, he can close things quickly. He can finish in a 10,000 meter race. As we hear the bell, and there's only the last lap now, and a last kilometer for the leader Yamanishi, but Percy Karlström did do a last lap in 3 minutes 40 last month in the competition, so he can put the burners on when he needs to, and he might have to do that to hold on to silver, but there's the man walking to gold.
Let's not forget, Tony, as we approach the finish,
Mizunov's gone past Karlström, sorry, Mara. So
Mizunov now in 2nd place as they both hear the bell for the last lap, and Karlström really trying to hang on in the medals there. But the gap back to the Turkish Korkmaz in 4th, something like just under 30 seconds from Mizunov and Karlström. So Karlström really needs to hang on now. And as we approach the finish, don't forget that dreaded last 100 meter rule.
Yes, where there could be an outright disqualification if the chief judge thinks somebody has lost technique. This is Mizunov moving into the silver medal position, and Karlström so far unable to respond. European under-23 champion Mizunov, and he's into the silver medal position as they go past the Polish athlete. There's the gap now. So Yamanishi is storming away to victory at the moment. 28-second lead for him. Mizunov 2nd, Karlström 3rd. Korkmaz of Turkey is in 4th place. Then a big gap to Ikeda, Bosworth, and Jiaxing of China. But the leader, he's on his way. He's in the last lap, the last kilometer, and he still looks so composed. His eyes fixed firmly on the prize now.
If we think about, compare him to Bosworth's grimace, Yamanishi just looks so in control. 4:14 for his last split to 19K, and Mizunov 4:07. But Yamanishi had a 28-second lead on Mizunov, so I don't think Mizunov is going to be able to close that gap. But Mizunov has a very fast finish.
Yeah, I think there's a really intriguing challenge for the silver and bronze at the moment, and Korkmaz is out of the race really in terms of the medals because he's another 30 seconds back, but Mizunov and Karlström with just a second between them. There's the man in 4th at the moment, but 4:19 on his last sprint, he's not going to get there. Mizunov absolutely burned through the last kilometre, 4 minutes and 7 seconds. He's on 1 red card as well at the moment. What an impressive finish this is from the European under-23 champion. You can hear the bell still ringing for some, but it rang some time ago for Yamanishi because he is away and he's going to claim a world title. Here he is, marching on again.
And Japan set to make history as only the 2nd nation ever to win titles in the men's 20k and 50k.
So striding down with the Corniche and the coastline to his right-hand side, so you can see the scoreboard in the background. He's got one more bend to navigate here on that slippery floor, and he turns and he looks, and he can see the finish line up ahead of him. This is the leader, 1 hour and 25 minutes into this 20k race walk, and it is Toshikazu Yamanishi. It's the home straight now for the Japanese athlete. It's going to be a big moment for Japanese race walking, this, as Yamanishi strides towards the gold medal. Crowd watching on. You can hear them shouting, "Allez, allez, allez." Well, go, 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 Yamanishi, that is, because this has been a fantastic achievement from him. He's going to lose the ice around the neck. He's lapping athletes all around. He's staring straight ahead, and he knows he's nearly there. They're waiting for him at the finish line. They've got the banner out. Look at this man go. Japanese race walking star. Japan have never won a medal in the men's 20k. He's about to make history for his country. Yamanishi wins the 20k at the World Championships. 1:26.33. Gold for Yamanishi of Japan. There's the flag, there's the fireworks. And there, Mizunov comes through for second place and silver. And Karlström, to the salutes of the crowd, is going to come through and get a bronze for Sweden. There goes Percy. He's over as well, and he does it, I think, he may just have broken 1 hour 27. What a brutal race. The backs of the photographers there, a bow from Yamanishi. He's the new world champion in Qatar.
And then the other side.
Well, not much of a smile on his face as the rest of the walkers start to come across the line. There is the athlete in fourth, Korkmaz. Nearly a minute behind. Korkmaz takes fourth. Brilliant effort from the youngster. And you can see the toll it takes on you. But the picture they want right now is Yamanishi. From every angle. He doesn't look like somebody who's just walked 20k very fast, does he? He looks absolutely fine. Tremendous effort. Karlström has the Swedish flag. Mizunov there as well. Korkmaz being consoled, but what a tremendous effort from the young Turk there to finish fourth. Yamanishi will have a drink. Mara's going to go and have a word with the lead protagonist. There's Ikeda coming up the home straight for the last time. Now he's in fifth place at the moment. Daniel Michaud, the chief judge, just walks across. You can see the Swedish flag is flying proudly around the shoulders of Karlström. Yamanishi there, getting some waves from the crowd. Karlström, super effort. Great pace he's got, just found it a bit too much towards the end. Here comes Ikeda. This is the athlete to finish fifth. 1:26.34, the confirmed finishing time for Yamanishi. Rounded down to 1:26.33, it looks like, and Bosworth will finish sixth. 2 red cards at the moment. He's driving it on. He's got enough there to wave at the camera and blow a kiss. Tom Bosworth of Great Britain is going to finish sixth at the World Championships, and isn't he delighted about it, erasing some of the pain of London when he didn't finish 2 years ago. He does finish on the Corniche. Bosworth is sixth for Britain. Callum Wilkinson, remember, disqualified earlier in the race. Across come Wang Kaiwa, Takahashi, Aiki is coming in as well, the Japanese athlete. 2 Chinese walkers are coming in 7th and 8th, so we've got now the top 9 are in. There's the top 3. They will be on the podium in the Khalifa Stadium sometime tomorrow. The bell's still ringing for some. Bosworth is there and he's going to want a drink after that epic effort. And what a performance from Yamanishi. He looks cool as a cucumber, really, considering the challenge he's just taken on. And he marched away from them and they just could not catch him. Barondo, one of the two Barondos in the race. One of them disqualified, he finishes. There's a couple of Japanese, the winner on the right and Takahashi on the left. There's Bosworth applying some ice and water. Stano is next to finish, the Italian, who was one of the contenders for the title, but was ultimately undone by a 2-minute time penalty. But this man, absolutely imperious performance. Hands the flag back. Well, he's got one under his armpit already, you can see. The finish is still coming in. There's Stano, just behind an athlete who's still got I think another kilometer to go. Has he? No, he's come in and looks like he's done. That was Bonfim, in fact, of Brazil, who came in. And they swapped places on the home straight, so Bonfim ahead of Stano. Stano 13th, really undone by a time penalty late in the race, which caused him to lose 2 minutes and therefore see his place drop down the rankings. And Dane Birdsmith here. Brave run, a brave walk, I should say, from the front early on. Couldn't quite keep up with them. But the Commonwealth champion finishes 14th. Behind him, Pole of Germany, and there he is there. The Frenchman Campion actually got in front of him in the end, in front of Pole. Bosworth, well, they'll wheel him away, but there is a word with his coach.
7th or 8th, I think. No, top 8. I think so. We were well up. Are you okay? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Well done. You got any more Morton? We got any Morton?
So they're the words with Andy Drake and Tom Bosworth and the other British officials who were down there. Tom Bosworth of Britain coming through. So he finished in the top 6. You can see there that it's difficult for them always to know exactly where they finish. Bosworth, one of his first questions to the coach there is, where did I finish? But he was pleased. And a good performance from him. But what a performance from that front three, led by the athlete from Japan.
Yeah.
Yamanishi took this out. He took a hold on this race. And amid the fireworks, Yamanishi walks to gold. Breaks the tape in 1 hour, 26 minutes and 33 seconds. He's Japan's first ever 20K men's race walk medalist and champion. It's the picture they want back home, and he's more than happy to pose for it on the Corniche. Still they come in. The Kenyan there. Behind the Frenchman Bourdier. So Gathimba over the line. The Italian Giapponi, tall figure. And I think, yes, I think the Kenyan, you know, has been told he's got one more lap to go because he wasn't showing on my score system. So he may have another lap to go. There was an official there saying one more, one more. It's easy to be confused, I suppose, when you've been out there in a really hard walk. There's the night sky and the Corniche lit up. Confirmation of our winning result. Toshikazu Yamanishi, gold for Japan. A historic moment for Japanese race walking. 1:26.34 to take the win. Mizunov second. An electric finish to get the silver. Pinching it off Percy Karlström of Sweden, who gets bronze. Korkmaz further back with fourth for Turkey. Japan's Ikeda finishing in front of the impressive Tom Bosworth. The two Chinese couldn't make an imprint on the podium in this event, but they finished 7th and 8th. Another Japanese athlete then, Takahashi, in the top 10. So that all three Japanese finished in the top 10. So we look through the second and, for the moment, final page of all the finishers, including Barondo with a very creditable 11th, the 2017 medalist Bonfam in 12th place, the Commonwealth champion Bird Smith in 14th. And it's all happened in front of these spectators who have willed these walkers on a night where we've had really a bit more breeze. It's still been quite muggy, humid conditions, close weather, hovering around the 30-degree mark. You need to keep cool any way you can. Losev proudly displaying the Ukrainian vest at the finish. He's just coming in 27th place. The bell's still ringing for some. The crowd still watching on here on the Corniche. The Irish flag flying proudly. No final contenders tonight towards the podium for the Irish after they had a top 10 finish in the 50k men. Continuing their proud tradition in race walking. We sent Mara off, by the way, to go and get some interviews, so hopefully we'll hear from some of the main protagonists in the next few minutes as she goes to the mix zone. But really good to see these crowds lining the Corniche tonight. Give you an idea, we're 1:05 in the morning local time here at the conclusion of this 20k race walk. A flag in each hand and a bronze medal for Perseus Karlström. But a fast finishing Mizunov. He'll be on the podium in second. That was the view as the winner took the tape. A moment of history for the world leader Yamanishi, who's now the world champion.